Words. Well, welcome everyone. Today it is January the 27th, and I am very, very excited. I have this wonderful, magical, mystical guest. Okay. It's Sandra Alexei here, and I'm with Game Changer, which is I'm a co-author. It's the new model of relationships, the Aquarian model. Okay, and so I would really appreciate if you would subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you leave a comment, you get a chance to win a free reading. I do a mini one every month. And if you would share, okay? And the next thing is if you go underneath in the show me, I have my website, mypersonalmuse.com, because I do spiritual and business coaching, and you'll see everything I do, everything I offer, all my services, the other books I've published, my testimonials, and also there is a photo album that you can see all the different things I've done. So, okay, so that's about me. So it's not about me today. It is about Peter. And I have requested that we do kind of this chat for the simple reason I really respect his point of view. He's going to tell us what he does right away, and then I'm going to start with the questions. So Peter, it's yours right now.
All right. I guess for those who are
new
meeting me for the first time, I have a degree in psychology, and I've been a businessman for the last, 25, 30 years as well. So I never ended up using my degree in psychology. And I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, but my personality was so extreme that my mentor said that you would make a great clinical psychologist, except the only guys who would be able to handle you would be drill sergeants, right? So that kind of gives you a bit of a perspective on kind of how far out there I was, on the extreme level. Now, over the last few years, and especially the last couple, I've softened quite a bit, right? With my understanding, my sympathy towards people, so on and so forth. And then when you actually think about drill sergeants and who actually becomes a drill sergeant, like how extremely traumatized were those guys somewhere along the line that it's their full-time job to yell at new recruits and make them into men. You know what I mean? Like, so, and whatever the definition of a man is, right? Because those definitions are continually shifting. The definition of a man, definition of a woman, so on and so forth. I mean, you can see, I mean, just in my lifetime, the last half century, you can see how the definition and roles of women has changed in society, and it has not been for the better. And the way that you can see that is the state of relationships in the world today, and the state of relationships between parents and children. Like, we're all disconnected, and we have been really right from the birth process. And the Western birth process is very, very traumatic when you examine it on when you scrutinize what actually is happening. The way that they give birth, it's almost the exact opposite of everything you should do. You know what I mean? Lay on your back to deliver a baby. Have a bunch of strangers in the room with the lights blaring. Everything's cold. Everything's clinical. The baby comes out right away. They snatch the baby from you. So right away, the system is designed to sever us, child to mother, right? And mother to father and all this kind of stuff. And it's very subtle, and it's been taking place through the centuries. And it really has amped up to the point that we're at now, the so-called 21st century. And it is an absolute disaster. It's a disaster. So people are reaching and grabbing for straws at almost anything and everything. So, because people don't like to be told what to do, and B, because they have a subconscious understanding that something is not right, not only with themselves and their relationships, but in society as a whole. You know?
Okay, you know what, Peter, can I just say something right now? There's two things you just said. They don't like to be told what to do, okay? And so today it's really about, for me, as I was saying with you before, is we have a full moon. Okay, we're in the middle of it right now in Leo, which is about finding our sovereignty and who are we really, connecting to the divine or God, aligning. And then we have a Mercury retrograde, which is in Aquarius, which is questioning, how free am I? Okay. And so right now it's like, I don't need to be told what to do yet. Where does this indoctrination come from? This brainwashing that I've seen over the years, where people, it's right now collectively, it's right, truth versus non-truth, satanic evil versus light. It's like a spiritual war. So, and people in the middle. And right now, with all the shutdowns, I call it, we're under house arrest. Okay. People say lockdown. What we've done is we are really traumatized. You talk about the trauma to begin with. We haven't dealt with that. Now there's this trauma. And I really feel, I feel a lot of empathy for a lot of couples. I feel a lot of empathy for a lot of students. They are so traumatized that I actually think there's a cognitive dissonance. So if you can explain like what's consciousness, what's cognitive dissonance, and where's this indoctrination coming from, and how many years have we been indoctrinated? And maybe this whole experience we're going through, and it's since 2007, I'm not going to go, I got goosebumps, is for us to break this indoctrination and to finally be free to look at who we are, connect with the divine, and live in a universal law that is not about corruption, deceit, lying, superficiality, all the bullshit.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned about freedom, right? So we live in the West, in Canada. Canada and America, typically they'll tell you, yeah, we're free, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then you'll have around Remembrance Day or any type of kind of war, significant World War II, World War I date, you'll often have people say things like, well, the only reason that you can protest and complain about this kind of stuff or voice your opinion is because of all these guys, the greatest generation, they went over there to Europe and fought World War II so that you have a right to say what you want. Okay, let's just examine that objectively for a second. So these guys went over there. So they were drafted into the army, so they had no choice. Some of them volunteered on their own, right? They go over there. They're totally traumatized by war because, I mean, there's very few things that are more traumatizing than war, right? For the actual people fighting and for the environments that the people are in, right? Houses, lives, people, everything gets destroyed. So they finish the war and they come back. Well, how free are they if they got to stop at customs and show their passport? You know what I mean? How free are you if you buy a car and you have to go register it with the government, you know, and they give you the ownership. So now this car that you paid for with your own money, you pay tax to them, which is a whole other scam. And then they issue you an ownership, right? So you don't even own your own car, right? Then they give you a driver's license so that you can drive on the roads that you paid for with your own tax money. So these issues of freedom, and you know, and you can't say what you want on the internet or anywhere else for that matter, because as you know now, I mean, you get suppressed as much as anyone, you know, with all these fact checkers and censorship and stuff like that. If we were really free, you should be able to say what you want, regardless of whether it, you know, it pisses someone else off or not. Now they have to examine what it is that's pissing them off about what it is that someone says.
What's
right?
triggering them? Because it's a
Yeah. Yeah. I have no problems with people telling me what to do. I just want to know why. Tell me the mechanism. Explain the mechanism, what the benefit is to me, what the benefit is to you. And then if it makes sense, I'll run it through my mental calculations or whatever it is that I need and acquiesce and agree to it or not.
okay.
Like, but just don't just tell me for no reason, you know, or not be able to explain it, or even worse, not know the reasons why you're telling me to do something or to not do something. These are the issues. There should not be any questions that are not allowed, right? That are inappropriate. Any question is appropriate. The only thing inappropriate will be the answer and how you configure it in order to manipulate someone. So this is the issue. Everyone's playing these manipulative games without even realizing it themselves.
Okay,
Go ahead. You wanted to ask something.
but this is perfect, Peter, because the whole thing is when we talk about freedom, I have the right to know why. And this is all Aquarian. Okay, totally Aquarian. It has to be of benefit for both people. That's what
Right.
we're looking at now. It's like the figure 8. Okay, the sign of infinity. I'm going to give, it's going to come back, we're going to work together. The state since 2007 is that we've had a hierarchical state. Only the top get it. We are the peons and the little ants here working for these other people. Well, guess what? It's not working. That construct is being destroyed.
Well, I hope so. It's about time.
It's totally destroyed. Since 2007, it started with the Bernie Madoff, the loans and savings, Pluto and Capricorn. It's been the whole time. Now look at what's having collectively. Race was December 20th of 2020. 2 planets actually finally moved into Aquarius. 2023, we have Pluto. We still have stuff to be disclosed this year. This is our bridge year, okay, to be disclosed, because we need to know the truth. People just want to know. That's all I want to know. And as a teacher, when I work, it's like, I want you to do this, and it's why. And I'll go, well, because I think it's going to be for your benefit. It's not for me to control or manipulate, okay? Which in cases, it's a lot in relationships. It's like if you're beholden to me. Why am I beholden to you? Why do you think you have to be my boss? Okay. So many things right now that are out there that people are questioning, and they have a right to question it. Like I really question, I mean, and you have to remember, and I think you have, I've been in the hairstyling industry. And so this whole idea about, you know, gay people, I mean, I might be chastised for saying that, but I mean, we would go to conventions together, Peter, and we would go to a drag show. I mean, they're beautiful, whatever. But then we want to have these unicorn sidewalks. We want to have our, when we talk about the vets, we want to have poppies that are unicorn. Well, to my thing is red is blood. It runs red. I don't care what color person you are or who you are or what. Okay. And so then now all of a sudden we've moved into the transgender in things. And then it's like we have to have special bathrooms. Like now they've just, I think somebody's in the States putting in where it doesn't matter if I'm a transgender, if I'm actually identified as a boy through birth. Okay, I like and Shapiro, how he says, I still get to go into the women's bathroom if I want. So what is the rationale? I guess, where's the critical thinking skills that come with doing this, unless it's a matter of controlling us so we don't think? When we're traumatized, is it not true that with cognitive dissonance, I can't think it, my mental acuity is not that strong.
Yeah, because when people are operating under a trauma, and it can be real or perceived, you understand, the body does not differentiate between a real event or or an imaginary event like a movie. Because when they measure physiological responses of people, you know, in laboratory settings, they'll put them in and, you know, and depends what they're testing, right? So if they're testing stuff to do with violence, they'll show them violent stuff. And then they'll take galvanic skin response, which is, you know, how much you perspire and things like that. So they'll measure that. Obviously the heart rate, they'll check, they'll compare it with whatever they're showing them on the screen. You know, let's say it's really traumatic and violent. Well, a normal human being, you know, your heart rate will elevate as you start to empathize with the scenario that you're seeing before you. Now, it could be all a Hollywood production, but your mind doesn't have that filter to differentiate it. It's taking everything in as real, as verbatim, as true. So this is one way in which people are programmed. They are visually programmed through obviously the television. That's the primary culprit. Hollywood, you know, kind of before that, and then, you know, magazines, other print media, words, songs. We are all getting huge amounts of information continually throughout the day, and all of that is stored in our brains. Now, it's not stored as such that you can have, you know, automatic recall of all of these things, because there's just too much. I mean, sit in a room, the room that you're sitting in, and just look around, and all the different, whatever it is, shapes, objects, smells, sounds, so on and so forth. All of this is being encoded in our brains. This information can be used and structured to manipulate people. And it's doing that. I mean, the only reason that the world is on self-incarceration lockdown is because they're watching television. Like there's no other reason, right? There's no other reason. Because if you actually look at any actual statistics or scientific studies, I'm talking studies that aren't backed by the guys that want to sell you the vaccine, right? So, you know, then it kind of becomes clear that there's no reason to do whatever. But if you grew up watching Walter Cronkite thinking he's telling you the truth, you know, when these guys landed on the moon and Nixon is calling them with the rotary phone, and meanwhile we can't get cell phone reception when you drive through the forest. So 50 years ago, you know, the president of America is talking to guys on the moon. Like, give me a break, man. Like, but if you grew up thinking that's real, because before every movie you ever started, you see a picture of a globular Earth, a globe Earth that's spinning, you know, Universal Pictures or whatever all these movie theaters are called, and every classroom has this. You have been subtly indoctrinated into believing something about something that you your own self have not tested, you know, and that's what all of this is. Okay, here's an example, because this has been on my mind a lot. Like I've always loved women from a young age and have studied them since I'm in diapers. Like, you know, I was raised by women primarily, and I just love everything about them. So I pay attention and have you know, have scrutinized how they are, right? So you have women, they're the ones that are bringing forth a new life through their body, through their vessel, right? Like, you know, so what's the attack on women? Well, here's the attack on women. If you grew up having little fairy tale princess stories read to you at bedtime, and then when you get a little older, you watch the fairy tale Disney movies, and then when you get a little older, you start reading the fairy tale cosmopolitan magazines and TV shows and all this kind of stuff. What that does is limits a woman's own ability to be her own sovereign being, if you will.
Thank you.
In charge of their own selves, and to develop as a person, kind of not autonomous and independent from society or other human beings, but to be self-sufficient, like to trust their own feelings, to trust their own thoughts, to be able to operate as an independent being. So they're subtly taught all of this stuff is, you know what, if you just hang in there long enough, some prince, some knight in shining armor is going to come along and, you know, make everything right for you. You, by the way, can act however you want your entire life, like make it a complete disaster, but hang in there because Romeo's coming or whoever, right? So, so that's one way. So as they're exposed to all of this, they're given lists of what a real man is, or if someone really loves you, or on and on and on. So eventually they get to the point where they have a list of 250 unattainable items of attributes and things that their ideal man, you know, would have. And that list, you know, will continually grow and change. So it's never even hard and fast, you know, okay, I got 249 out of 250. Okay, I'll take this guy and let's start here. And then they're holding out for that one last one, you know, whatever it is, you know. And that's unrealistic. And it puts a strain on the woman internally. They're not even aware of it. Most of them are not aware.
That's right, Peter.
And it puts a strain on the guys, and most guys are not expressive. They don't talk a lot like I do. They don't think a lot about where their emotions or thoughts or where things come from. They just kind of, they're more simple creatures. You know what I'm saying? Like women are like Ferraris, you know, like a V12 with a million valves at high RPM and, you know, whatever, all this exotic machinery. And guys are like a straight six Chrysler motor. You know what I mean? You can run that without oil and drive from Toronto to New York City, right? Like they're just typically more basic, right? So and people try and coalesce this together, not realizing that everything in the world is designed to put them at odds with each other. Because if they're united in something, then they can resist all of the BS that's foisted upon us in the world. And by that is the limiting of freedoms. By that is keeping from people what they really are. It's the 21st century. We don't even fully know or nor can agree on what we are as human beings, right? You have some people say, yeah, we're light beings. Yeah, technically we are light beings. You know, other people say we're electric. Yeah, 100% we're electric. Other people say we're chemical. Yeah, of course we're chemical. Others say we're physical, spiritual, all of this stuff. We don't even know what we are as people. This is being so suppressed from us. And there's a million theories, and they're all interrelated. They're not all entirely wrong, but there's not one definitively right where you say, okay, here's what you are. You're made of this percentage of this amount of bacteria, this amount of, you know, energy. This energy is in contact with the Earth's energy. It's in contact with other people's energy. It ebbs and flows, and these things degrade the energy, and these things elevate the energy, and all this kind of stuff. So it's really weird to me that we don't actually know what we are as people, you know, as beings. But go ahead.
Okay, what I was just going to say, that's what I find fascinating, because I'm a galactic being, I'm an energy being, I'm a light worker, I'm this, I'm that. But the bottom line is I have a body, okay, and I can only equate it with there is a non-physical part to me and there's a physical part to me. That's where I do the 8, okay. So there's the spiritual realm and the physical realm. And the only thing I do know, and you can quantify this, is that my life force comes to me when I take my first breath. So to me, it's about breath. I take my first breath as a baby, I'm born. And then I do know, because I've been in dying rooms with people, that when the soul, I call it the soul, when the soul does leave, that's when they take their last breath. And I think right now, everybody is so confused. Who am I? And why am I here? And guess what? If we go back to we have all these terrific books we can read right now and whatever. But if we go back to Socrates and Plato and all of them, what were the questions? Who am I and why am I here? And those are still the questions. Even the work that I do is like trying to assist people in saying, who are you really? What are your qualities, you know? And so I think through the process of indoctrination, programming, all of that kind of stuff, we don't know. And I might get blasted on the video for this, and I don't really care. Okay. I think one of the things that I'm challenged with right now was a news report I seen with Tucker Carlson last night, where it's about a woman saying that a 4-year-old, she should be able to figure out if he wants to be a boy or a girl, or they will have the cognitive skill to do that. And I've read enough on that particular subject where there's a lot of challenges later for people that do the transgender, that do the hormones or whatever later. So how can you tell at 4 years old? Like, I just don't know. Like, where is that coming from? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Where is all of this coming from? Okay, where we want what we're teaching in school anymore. They want to teach what anal sex in elementary, and yet they don't know how to read the clock. They take the clocks out of the schoolroom. So I guess for me, it's like, well, why is this happening? So I look at manipulation, gaslighting, where's the critical thinking skills, mind control, programming. So does it come to anything like the Great Reset? There's a bunch of people that want to control the world. And so they are going to program everybody so that you're their slave. So you don't own anything and you're going to be happy not to own anything. Okay, you're going to you're going to be told what you're going to eat. You're going to be told what you can do, when you can travel, what you've got to take in order to do all that. So that's a total suppression. And I believe this whole kind of reset, when you look, I do have to say one thing. Jason Kenney in Alberta did say the other day, the Great Reset is not a conspiracy. Okay, he said Charles Schwab had sent everybody a book, every politician in the world, a book on it. And it's really a fact, it's a factual thing. I'm not going to say what my opinion is, but when I'm looking at freedom, let me tell you something. At the age of 73, I've been told that I'm not spiritual because I eat meat. Excuse me, I was raised on a farm. And you people that think you want to go green, okay, and not have furnaces or anything or travel, that's one thing. When I was raised on the farm, Peter, and you might know that, we had a well. We had a fridge because we had no electricity that we put ice blocks in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Had
Yeah.
kerosene lamps. We had a cook stove where there was coal and wood. And I'd get up in the morning, we had a pot-belly stove and it was cold. Okay. And we would have to have the heat going. I didn't have an indoor toilet or shower or bathtub. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to the outhouse. And then the next thing is what I had to do was have water warmed in a metal tub beside the potbelly stove. And we had a bath. And there was my mother and I, and we shared. And so I laugh at people that I'm going to live off the land, I'm going off the grid and I'm going to do it. And they go, do you really know what you're talking about? And so when they chastise me for whatever I do, which I really don't care what they do, I just say to them, you might want to think about it, is like, if you don't want gas and oil, they don't understand that there's a lot of products that are made with that. Okay. Is that then don't drive a car, don't fly a plane, don't heat your house, have a windmill, or I don't know what you would do, have you can't have a generator because that's electricity. So I guess it's like, how far have we strayed from the basics? And one of the things I really enjoy about you is you have a really good understanding of the Bible, of the real spiritual, for me, of the real, of the book. Let's call it the book. For me, it's like I was almost not from this planet. It's like, so I have a different kind of sense. And my dad used to say to me, on the farm. It was my God is in the trees and the birds and how I live my life. He was a hard worker. He never took from anybody. He had integrity. There was no manipulation. You did. And so and integrity is doing what I'm going to do, even though somebody's not watching me. He had his own mind.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't manipulate him, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they don't want those guys.
No, they don't want me.
The guys that want to steal everything from you and control you and ultimately want you dead so they can take all your stuff. They don't want guys who can't be controlled. And someone who knows themselves, you know, and is self-sufficient for all intents and purposes, are not controllable. So, I mean, this great reset, like I never heard this reset word until just very recently type thing. And now you tell me that every politician in the world has personally got a book from Charles Schwab. Who is that dude? And why isn't he in jail? You know, for running a conspiracy, right? So
because he's in Davos, okay, and they decided that this is what they wanted to do. They felt that nobody was smart enough to know how the world should run, okay, because they want more money. It's all about power, control, and that type of thing. To me, like, get out of my life. Okay. And I do. I mean, I'm very politically active and people know that. And if they don't like it, get out of my way, as far as I'm concerned. Because it's the freedom of the individual.
But here's the thing, as far as systems go. I mean, it's not just relationships that aren't working anymore. It's systems that aren't working anymore. So, and the political system, to be truthful, that if you're going to play in that realm, the guys behind the scenes are going to control both sides because they have to. It's like being in Vegas. The house wins. Like, everything is stacked. The odds are always stacked in the favor of the house. So even with political guys, it's too easy to get these guys into compromising situations or even fake pictures. Like, I mean, they could fake pictures in movies, but they really don't have to. They are all compromised. So as long as they play the game with the guys controlling them behind the scenes, they will be in the public eye. But they are not acting on the best interest of the people that they claim to represent. How do I know this? Well, just look at their policies and their behavior. None of it's designed to help us.
No.
In the last century, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Oh, no, this is big.
Yeah.
This is what is happening. In 2007, I told you Pluto was going into Capricorn. Capricorn is our societal structures. What it said then, and I told everybody then, this is what's going to be totally, and Pluto is like the bomb. It totally deconstructs it. This is what's going to be taken down. Every societal structure. We're doing political, we're doing educational, we're doing healthcare, okay? We're doing the medical, okay? Education, family systems, everything is going to be broken down because it is set up on a hierarchical thing, that it's one above the other. So right now, it's like, no, I'm not going to look to a priest. Where am I going to go? I'm going to align with my divine spirit. I'm going to align with my God, with my nature, whatever. Okay. And so am I going to listen to an educator? How many different kinds of education is there nowadays? And I can see it being gone. All of that is breaking down. By 2023, it will. And you know what it's going to be? It's going to be this kind of a network. And all I do know is when it comes to the US election, it's the power is in the people. You've got to give the power in the people and have them do some critical thinking and trust that they can look at what the system is. If we're going to talk politics, okay, we have different political systems, okay? And so how many people actually know what the liberal, what the conservatives, what the libertarian is, what that system is, what the philosophy is? So we have a philosophy and then we have a person, and who do they vote for? And that's what's shifting right now. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because how many people do know that?
Well, very few, it seems, but more are catching on. But the problem is they have to kind of throw out their old indoctrination that they don't even know that they got. They don't even know why they think what they think. This is the problem with people. They have not taken the time to examine their own selves and their own motivations. And their own motivations aren't always altruistic. In fact, very rarely are they altruistic. They are more from a greedy, like from a sense of lack. So they've been taught by maybe their parents, grandparents, school, culture, whatever, to come from a position of lack, as opposed to, no, you have everything within you that you need in order to make your way in the world, right? And I'm thinking back to what you were saying about going back to the last century and how you grew up without the power and the water and the heat and all this kind of stuff. And what that, like, think about this for a second. Do people, you have people out there, and I would say the majority of people at some point have thought that the world is going to be overpopulated and have no like, we're going to run out of land and food because the world's going to be overpopulated. Now, no matter where in the world I've been, I have driven for hours and hours and hours, and you barely see a farm. You see a couple of cows, you see whatever, right? And we're not maximizing any of our food production, as far as micro greenhouses, growing stuff indoors, growing stuff vertically, growing stuff underground, like in abandoned mines and stuff like that. There's not a chance we're going to run out of food or overpopulate the world ever. Yet people have this fear, right?
Right.
Where does this come from if there's no TV or if there's no school? You would never think that. You would never think that.
And who's telling them that? I guess, Peter, that's what I want to know. Who's telling that, and why do they believe it? Because they don't have critical thinking skills anymore? They're controlled?
Yeah, maybe they never did have critical thinking skills. Now, everybody comes out of the box with the knowledge of right and wrong. This is implanted in us. So, the first time any kid steals something, they're nervous, they're sweaty, they're looking around. The first time you lie to your parents or a teacher and stuff like that, you're nervous, you're looking around, like something, there's alarm bells in you going off when you do wrong. So we innately know the knowledge of right and wrong, but we're taught to suppress it, right?
Yeah, I wondered that for the simple reason I worked in a prison, and there are people that have murdered, or I have studied the charts of them, and there's where they'll say it could be a crime of passion, where they lost control of their mind and just did it, okay? Or they have no remorse, is another.
Yeah, there's some. There are some people that truly are kind of psychopathic and have no remorse, it would seem.
Right.
But that is either from them being highly severely traumatized,
Right.
and probably and in most, if not all cases, from a very young age. Because when you look at these serial killers or murderers or whatever, they grow up, their lives are horrid. Their lives are friggin' horrid, right? So they had some adult or older brother or neighbor, who knows what, like, just exposing them to the most horrific shit from a young age. And then as this gets suppressed and they go out there, they're trying to alleviate this pain, and it goes sometimes to the extent of taking another human being's life, right? Like, let's face it, Bill Gates cannot be Bill Gates and want to kill basically the entire world. if this guy was loved properly, like, if his parents paid him any attention and, gave him what he needed. George Soros, any of these things. I mean, look at the Queen. I mean, she was queen for like 50 years and her mom was still alive. Like, you're the queen basically of the whole world. And that's a whole other issue, by the way. And you've got your own mom sitting at the dinner table, like, kind of looking down at you and doing whatever else. You can't, a loving person can't do, or someone who has been loved properly and is a loving person cannot behave in the ways that these, psychopaths amount to. Which is why I suspect that there's certain people that think that there's some sort of reptilian in them, because reptilians are supposed to be, cold-blooded and stuff like this. But you could describe them as being less than human, let's say,
Right.
because real human beings, they don't do that to other people. But, as far as resources go, we have endless amounts of oil. Oil does not come from friggin' dinosaurs that are crushed up, okay? Because how many friggin' dinosaurs were there? Every single oil well in the world, whether they're pumping it out of Texas, Saudi Arabia, wherever, they pump this thing dry. And if they go back to it a few years later, there's more oil in it, right? Okay, well, if I finish this coffee, and the cup's empty, there's no more oil or no more coffee coming out of that unless someone else puts some more in it. They'll tell you, oh yeah, we didn't suck it all out and that's just the remnants seeping out. No, what that tells you is that oil is abiotic. It's naturally produced in the earth and you can't run out. You can't run out of it. Now, how can you charge $2, $3, $4, $5 a liter, depending on where you are in the world, for gasoline or diesel, if everybody knew that there's an endless supply of oil, right? You can't charge it. You can't charge it for that, right? You can, I mean, a bottle of water, this, if I walk into a gas station, a convenience store, a half a liter of water will cost $1. Well, $1, that's that's $2 a liter when you do the math. Are you telling me that when you were a kid drinking out of a garden hose running through the neighborhood of some neighbor, that there was going to come a time in your lifetime that people would be paying $2 a liter for water? You'd look at them and you go, dude, you're insane. Like, I mean, the stuff comes out of the tap, right?
My dad would have said that, Peter.
Yeah. Yeah. We would have said that.
It's like,
we would have said that.
How we could do that. I want to get back to this programming though, how
Sure.
they're traumatized and whatever. Because I do remember through my astrology studies, we used to study people like Charles Manson and whatever. And one of the interesting things was Patty Hearst. So Patty Hearst come from a fairly influential family and everything, okay? However, she was kidnapped by these people and they actually programmed her, indoctrinated her, did whatever, that she actually went and robbed a bank with them. Okay. Mm-hmm. So here she come from this good family background, whatever. There was no trauma, anything, but she was placed in a position where she could be programmed. That's one. The next thing I'm going to say is I had a sister-in-law that worked for a engineering company. And so a lot of the people would go on, and I'm actually going to say the name. It's something called The Wall, and you go for a week or whatever, and you pay $5,000 and you find yourself and all of this kind of stuff, and they actually programmed them. So when they came back, they had to be deprogrammed. And if you remember Sun Moon, when I went to university, that was in the 80s. That was a big thing. Sun Moon went to all the universities and he would pick like the cream of the crop. Okay, so I'm thinking the cream of the crop, you think they have really good critical thinking skills, but are they streetwise? Do they really know what the world works with, how it works? A lot of Canadians, their adult children went to the Sun Moon cults, okay? And they actually hired detectives, number one, to get them out of there. And number two, they had to pay to have them deprogrammed. So the bottom line, this isn't a new thing. It's just that a lot of people haven't maybe heard about that. So they think, oh no, manipulate me. Nobody, and people will say to me, gee, Sandra, sometimes like you think, I went, you know what? I have a red flag goes up. I have to, it's like, are they trying to bullshit me, or what do they want from me, or whatever? Okay. And then other times you feel really good. Okay. That's the intuition. And so I think, Peter, coming into, when you said when we first started this about how we're disconnected, okay, when we're truly connected and aligned to source, and you're very good with the Bible and you know the scriptures. I love that. I get goosebumps. I love that. Is the bottom line is when you do that, when you're aligned, however you're aligned, okay, I'll say source to me can be the Great Mother because I've worked with Aboriginal people. It can be Allah because I've worked with that association. It can be the Buddha. It can be, I don't care who it is. There's one source. That's my breath. Where do I get, do I get my breath from Buddha up here? Do I get my breath from Allah? Do I get my breath here? No, I get my breath, my life force, and that's called the chi. Okay, you got good chi, you got good ki. What are the different words that the Orientals use? Okay, it's one thing, it's energy. It's my whole being. Okay, and you have an understanding through scripture.
Yeah, what you were saying stuff before about spirit and breath. So the second page of the Holy Scripture says,
Okay.
and God made man out of the dust of the earth and breathed life into his nostrils, and he became a living soul, right? Doesn't say a human being, a living soul, right?
I like that. I love that.
And a soul would be indestructible, indivisible, right? Whereas our body, if you become a living body, well, we're decomposing as we speak. Like we're exposed to oxygen, we're getting older, we're going in one direction, and that's downhill. I'll tell you that right now, right? How do you, so that's God breathing into Adam's nostrils, right? Who he made out of the dust of the earth. And again, our chemical composition is identical to the dust of the earth, proportionally, and percentage wise, whatever the elements and minerals and all that kind of stuff of the dust of the earth, we have that contained in us. So now God makes that alive through his spirit by breathing into Adam's nostrils. How do you check if a person is dead? You said it before. It's when their spirit's gone out of them, their breath, when you take your last breath, right? That's the only way to definitively know if someone is dead, is they're not breathing. They could not have a heart rate for several minutes, and if they're in cold, icy water, maybe even up to a couple of hours, their heart doesn't have to be beating. They could have no brain activity for 10, 20 years with these coma people, but that still doesn't make them dead. It's when you have no breath in you left, when your spirit, not capital S spirit coming from God, part of the Holy Spirit, part of the Godhead, that people mistakenly call the Trinity, because the word Trinity is not in the Holy Scriptures, at least not the correct version. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So the capital S spirit is what makes all of us alive, right? Our lowercase s spirit is our breath. These words that I speak to you, they are spirit and they are truth, right? So they're coming out like this. Once that's gone, we're dead. Now to tie that back in, so that's on the second page. On the first page, getting back to the gender identity issues, it says that, and God said, let us make man in our image. In the image of God created he them. Male and female created he them. Male and female, not males and females. See, the etymology, the meanings of the words are very important. And that's what people don't know. And it's getting worse every single day as we short form our texts. People don't know how to write in cursive anymore. They don't know how to communicate. And they don't know the original meanings of the words, which are necessary in order to interpret language and communication and information and things like that. So the male and female is contained within each and every one of us. Now, this is provable genetically speaking, because depending on where in gestation the fetus is, the cells that are developing, a gene can switch on and off to direct the, to direct the physiological expression of these groups of cells into a male, masculine, or a female, feminine. So, for instance, the group of cells that are that later become the reproductive cells, the ovaries and the testes, when the gene is switched for a male, that group of cells will descend down and form the scrotum and the testes and will be externally on the male, whereas on the female, they will retract and pull upwards in the abdomen and become the ovaries, where the eggs are, right? And then the clitoris will shrink and retract to kind of the hood of the labia, or not above the labia, in the vagina, and it'll be really small, typically speaking. Sometimes it's expressed much larger, and in fact will appear as a miniature penis. But in a male, that clitoris will extend outward and become the penis. So all of these cells are contained in us. It's just a matter of, what program you're going to switch on to develop into this and to that. Now, culture and society is designed to radicalize us to one extreme or another, hyper masculine men or hyper feminine women, which isn't the case now. They're trying to homogenize that, but we need a balance between the masculine and the feminine, because if a guy, okay, let's take NHL, not professional hockey players, right? They're known to be tough, drop the gloves, punch a guy's lights out on the ice and blah, 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 but if this same guy is like really a sensitive guy and expresses remorse afterwards, like saying, man, I can't believe I knocked that guy's teeth out, during the game today. People like, be a man, be a man. Like they'll get him to suppress these natural sensitivities, right? Or if a woman, kind of expresses the other way, more masculine traits. Now, culture has programmed us to have women be more masculine as opposed to feminine. And that is against the natural order of things. You know what I mean? Yeah, let them be independent, let them be free, let them be sovereign. All that is good, but not at the suppression of men, where they're stepping down on men. No. Or people get pissed off with the patriarchal society, where they seem to step down on women and stuff like that. And that happens. We all see it. But that is out of whack, this masculine, feminine balancing out, kind of between the hemispheres of the brain, but also energies and things like that. So
we are going to save that one for a next time. That is
sure, yeah,
absolutely brilliant, because that's a big one on its own. And basically that's what Game Changer was about. The Aquarian energy is a balancing of the masculine, feminine, head, heart, and Hera, okay, and the left and right brain. Now, that doesn't mean that we are androgynous. Androgynous is another name, but we do have the physicality we do have of a female and a male. We have a penis, we have a vagina, that type of thing, okay? So now we're trying to homogenize everybody, and nobody's quite sure of who they are. They're not sure of what their roles are, and I think that's a big thing in relationships, where years ago it was like, okay, the woman stayed at home, and the man went out and made the money, and he was the hunter, gatherer, came home. Well, things are different because the world is different. Okay, so we're looking at partnership. And if you look in Game Changer, you guys got the book, is what do I bring to a relationship as a female? What does a male? And so there's all different kind of things. It's like if you decide you want to have children, Okay, you're going to wait to have children until maybe the man can be the sole provider while you stay at home. The woman still wants to have her career and find her purpose. So once the children are in school, then she's going to go out, and they accommodate. It's a matter of not compromise. It's a matter of negotiating. And we're living in a different world right now. And I love that. And I talked about spirit of the soul. I think would be a really good for our next one. I want to do another one with you at least a month. Okay. And the next thing is it's like the whole idea of our ascension process right now is we're moving from we're moving from, and of course I'm very kind of galactic. So we're moving from the third dimension. They talk about the matrix, and we're moving from a carbon-based, being, into more of a crystalline, and it has to do with the genetics. It has to do with our genes are shifting and changing. So maybe if we talk about spirit of soul next time when we go into that, because today I think it was for me, and I do hope, because I so am fascinated with working with you. I think it's working with you too. You have so much wisdom. I think we have tons of information if you say that, but we have very little information, and we don't have a lot. And I'm not sure if they teach any more critical thinking skills so we can think something through. So if we think it through, then we can't be brainwashed or indoctrinated. And you don't have to be beholden. I don't have to be beholden to the government. I don't have to be beholden to another person. Okay, I can create and find my purpose and do my thing. So I think it's been really good because there's things that everybody can think about and put comments. And Peter, I'll send the comments to you and you can maybe work with them, is like on critical thinking skills, programming, inquiry, gaslighting, manipulation, brainwashing, indoctrination. What is common sense? I think sometimes common sense is not that common anymore. And
Right.
we have intellect, and then we have cognitive dissonance. And what is consciousness? Okay, consciousness is a big thing, and cognition. And there's something called propagandize, subliminal advertising. So another thing, if you have something you would like to state in the comments, or if there's something you would like Peter to maybe look at for next time. Okay, because one of the things I think is spirit of soul is a very good thing. Because for me, and we're not going to go into that, but I've had a near death. So I went over and did come back. And so it was a very different process for me. So I just see the world very differently. Okay. And I think if we think of one thing, I mean, at one time we knew that we thought the world was flat, but we do know it's round because we can go above and look at it.
Sandra, all of the stuff you see is fake. I'll tell you. The ones that are showing us all of these pictures, they come from two sources. JPL, I think Jack Parsons Laboratories. They call them Jet Propulsion Laboratories. They're the behind the scenes guys of NASA, right? Which are the guys in Florida and Houston, right? The guys you got to call if stuff goes wrong, call Houston. Except we're living in a day and age where Houston has to call Houston now because we have a problem. But they get over $60 million every day from U.S. taxpayers. $60 million every single day. You could shoot easily 3 or 4 major feature films for that amount of money. So all of the stuff that they present to us as the world being round and spinning and all of these other things are just an elaborate plan to keep us separated from what God actually says, that the world is not movable. It doesn't move.
Well, we do know, Peter, that there is a gravitational pull. We do know that it's at 23 degrees, the North and South Pole. We do know that we have planets. We see the planets in space, and that's been historically from the Egyptian times. We do have Pluto, we have Venus. We can see Venus in the sky. We see the
Yeah. And I can zoom in on it with my cell phone camera and enlarge it. Now,
Right.
that's just with the cell phone camera. Everyone can do that tonight out in their backyard. Go in, pick a star,
Yeah.
take the camera out, zoom in on it, and start videotaping it. If these things are the distances that they tell us that they are, you can't zoom in on something that's that far away.
Well, yeah, but the bottom line, well, I don't know.
Now they're there and you can measure stuff. Like
Yeah.
as far as astrology goes, I mean, these things are like clockwork. But it says on the first page that that the sun and the moon and the stars were put in the firmament, the greater light to light, okay, not a ball of fire, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night.
Right.
And the stars he put also, right? And given for what? Times and seasons and stuff like that. So over the centuries, you'll have people like yourself, they're going to keep track of all these things as they move and what happens when they're in this position and that position. All of that stuff is true to various extents, right? You can go as deep as you want into that. That's provable. As far as them being light years away and all these different sizes and these compositions that they tell us, it's not possible for them to be all these different distances and sizes and for all of them to appear to us on Earth as virtually the same size.
Right.
Like Jupiter might look bigger, you know, than Mars, and it does. Like I've seen it, but it's not possible. So they're lying about that kind of stuff too, right? It's a tax grab. There's over 80 countries in the world that have space agencies. Okay. Now, what's the purpose for the Philippines to have a space agency? You have people in the shack, living in shacks in the jungle, and the only thing they have is a TV set. What exactly is the purpose for the Filipino government to take tax money and have a space agency?
Well, it's a trend. It's a futuristic trend. It's like we always want to know more. And
Yeah.
all I do know is I don't know.
How about we give them running water and electricity for free, as opposed to having a Filipino space agency?
Right. All I know is for me, I know that every month we have a new moon, we have a full moon. And I do know that the fishermen, especially when I lived in Hawaii, the fishermen did all their fishing on that. Okay, and we do know there's a higher tide. So those are physical things that I can relate to. Okay, I do know, so new moons come, full moons come. I do know when Mercury's retrograde. I do know the planetary cycles. I've studied them for 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're like clockwork. They are like clockwork.
It's like that's the planetary cycles. And if we go back, the Egyptians, all of the older people did. And if we think we are the only, we do have a galactic center out there. It's 27 degrees Sagittarius. We do have black holes. We do maybe have other dimensions. If we think we're the only dimension, I think we're a little bit.
Oh, no, we have other dimensions for sure, right? I mean, it's as far as I can tell, there's about 12 of them that work mathematically. But all the others, like the black hole, you know, you heard about this from Einstein. The guy's doing he's doing a one mass theory, and it's all theoretical. You gotta pay attention to the word theory. Theory means it's not proven. So he's doing a one mass theory on the black hole, but he's using two masses, right? But who's got time to read that shit? Nobody.
See, I don't understand that.
You spoke about gravity, right? Okay, it's still called the theory of gravity, right? Newton and the experiment that he designed in order to prove gravity, some guy, I think it was Cavendish a couple hundred years ago, you know, made these steel balls and this and that and the other thing, and kind of tried to reproduce this experiment that Newton had come up with, and no one's ever been able to reproduce that experiment. So whatever it is that we're calling gravity is not what they're telling us, because it's the theory of gravity, right? It's the Big Bang Theory. It's the theory of evolution. Now, the reason that they need the world to be a ball spinning through space is because then they can tell you the origins of it, which means that billions and billions and billions of years ago, everything exploded out of nothing. And it just took billions of more years of random accidents and occurrences for us to be having this conversation now, which means they want to get you away from you knowing that you have a creator. Right. So, and if he didn't create you directly, he put the mechanisms in place in order for you to be created.
Right.
So in order for them to give us that model, they have to contravene the known laws of physics in order to perpetrate all of it. Because once you get a big explosion in outer space, then you get solar systems, then you get planets forming, then you get primordial planets, and then all of a sudden life appears on Earth, and you go from being like a one-celled organism to a multicellular organism to like a little worm, and then you're a fish, and then you're a lizard, you grow legs, and then from that you turn into something else. It's all to dehumanize us and to keep us separated from the divine.
Our connection to the divine. That's it. Like
that's all it is.
Yeah, see, that's why for me, I probably have never got into the Bible, because my dad always said, and I would run around to the different churches that come from a small town, and nobody made sense, except one time they said that they had to put me in the water. It was some evangelical thing, and tie me to a tree, and it's like, I don't think so. I'm about
like it's a business.
It's big business. My thing is, when I connected, when I had my near death, I went over, came back, and I have peace and knowing. And I like Buddhist philosophy. My brother, when he passed away, his wife didn't even know that he had become a Buddhist. He found peace in that, Peter. That's the main thing, okay? And the bottom line is, we were there. He had the little Buddhist monks chant him out and everything, and we went through the ritual, the melee beads and whatever. And I could tell, because I've set up dying rooms, when his soul left, you know what it reminds me of? The feather on Forrest Gump. You know how the feather comes down? It's like this. And I can tell when the soul leaves. It just is so, I can't see it. It's gentle. And other people that I've set up dying rooms for, even the one, he was the oncologist. They let me stay in the hospital. I set it all up. I could shower in there and whatever. He said to me, I said, so, and he goes, you will see them start to shingle. And he said, you'll know, and it's going to move out. Okay.
Well, yeah. And there's a Russian guy, I think, and he's videotaped animals and people at the moment of death. And he is captured on film. Again, I have no way to corroborate if it's true or not, but he's captured on film sort of like a puff of smoke leaving.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's like a puff of smoke. It's perfect. Okay. Anyway, this is awesome. I know that this is going to give a lot of people a lot of things to think about. And remember, I thank everybody for taking the time. I thank you, Peter. It's just awesome. Okay. And Peter and his wife are going to be doing some great work in a few months. They will share that with you later. But what I do know right now is it's perfect timing. The full moon in Leo is like, who am I? Where's my sovereignty? The Mercury retrograde in Aquarius is like, where did I get these thoughts from? What was my perception? How can I change my thoughts? What is really going on? And I gave you the words, and you can write those words down. And if you want to know them, put a little note. I'll send them off to Peter, because he's going to start building his own little group and tribe and that type of thing of what they're going to do. We work together as a team. So rather than have the hierarchy where we have all these, I said to somebody, they said, you know what, Sandra, they're going to phone you in jail. They're going to throw you in jail I'm an activist. And I said, I think they would want to get rid of me when I was in there. That's all I said. They would want.
Well, and that's the thing. Like anyone that gets close to the truth, the guys who don't want other people knowing the truth, they try and silence them. Like this is proven throughout history. This is proof, you know, who exposed religion as a scam? Jesus Christ, you know. Well, they tried to get rid of him, you know. So anyone else that's a whistleblower, Kennedy, same thing, right? The guy's looking into, you know, all kinds of stuff that's basically going against the powers that be that want all this control. And
but that's where
you
we're
know,
at right now, Peter. That's where we're at right now. So thank you, everyone. Much love, many blessings. And I'm going to sign off. I have to stop this.
all right. See you, Sandra.
Just wait, stop.